So, you want to learn more about relationships? Well, you've come to the right place. Let's talk about how relationships are formed. Let's talk about how people act differently in different relationships, and maybe it does go back to your childhood. If you've heard about attachment styles, but you don't really know what they are or the practical implications of them, this is the video for you. We're going to talk about the 4 common attachment style types, why they're important, who discovered them, how they came to be, and the idea behind them, and how you can use this information to go on and implement it in your life right now after this video. So here's what we need to know. When we look at people in different relationships, we see people act differently. And I don't just mean different personalities about being selfless or kind or greedy, but we see them act differently in terms of how much trust they give their partner, how much trust they believe their partner has in them, how much validation and praise they require from their partner, how they handle conflict, how they handle things like disrespect, rudeness, boundaries being not tolerated. And you look at that and you think, I wonder where that comes from. If only there was a theory or there was something we could look at that could tell us why people act the way they do in relationships. I am a certain way. I don't really know why. But I'm not alone. Other people also act the way I do. So folks, let's get into it and let's talk about one of the most popular relationship theories in all of social psychology, attachment theory. So here's what you need to know. Attachment theory takes off with this experiment. I believe it was called The Strange Situation by Mary Ainsworth, who really struck down this idea. And essentially the idea was this. We have a baby in a room, or a young child, a little over 1 year old. We're going to have mom or dad leave the room, so they're either by themselves or with a stranger, and then we're going to have mom and dad come back. And we want to see what this child's reaction is to being left alone, the reaction towards the stranger in the room, and then the reaction towards the parent coming back. In other words, attachment theory said, look, the way that we form relationships in adulthood, the way that we interact with other people is largely influenced by the bonds we made very early on in our lives. Like as babies almost, as we're talking about like 15-month-olds, 18-month-olds. And the relationships that we create with our caregivers will later on influence us when we're 25, 30, 35 in our romantic relationships. Why? Because the way that we bond, the way that we trust, the way that we depend, the way that we rely on other people has been shaped as early as 18 months, under 2 years old. So what are they? What are the attachment styles? Now, some of the names may have changed a little bit over the years, but the ideas are still the same. Number 1, secure attachment style. Secure attachment style essentially means this. When an individual was really young, most of the time, when they needed support, their caregiver was there. When they needed love and kindness, their caregiver was there. They understood that, if I need someone, a caregiver is a reliable person. Mom or dad is going to be there in my life. So this would be the young children in the experiment who they would start to cry when mom and dad left. But then when they came back, they could be soothed and they could be relaxed. And then they actually felt more confident going out and walking around and exploring the world on their own. So how does this show up when that person with the secure attachment style becomes an adult? Well, think about what you've just done. You've taken a baby, a child, and psychologically they've gone, okay, the family in my life is reliable, they're trusting, I can trust them. If they leave, I know they'll come back, I can depend on them. If I'm hurt, I can go to them. All of a sudden, that baby turns 18 years old, 20, 25, 30 years old. And when this young lady or this young man gets into a relationship, consciously but mostly unconsciously being aware, when her boyfriend goes away on a business trip, she feels secure. Because she believes deep down that her belief about other people and about relationships is that people are reliable, is that you can trust them. When this young lady or young man goes out and something terrible happens to them, whether it be physically, whether it be emotionally, and they need someone to talk to, they will seek comfort and companionship in their partner. Why? Because somewhere unconsciously, Their brain has this beliefs that if you're hurt, you're going to go to mom and dad, they're going to make you feel better. Mom and dad can be the symbol of family or friend or social connection. So a lot of these little things that get ingrained, and look, when we're talking about attachment styles, we're really talking about beliefs about ourselves, beliefs about other people, and beliefs about the way relationships work in general. So if you're someone who was lucky enough to have a secure attachment style, chances are you get along with strangers easily. If something terrible happens, you can open up to a loved one. You are happy to open up and it makes you feel better. You don't consider yourself clingy. You don't consider yourself the jealous type. You're pretty secure not only in yourself, but also in your partner and in your relationship. So that's secure attachment style, okay? Next up, we have avoidant attachment style. Now, avoidant attachment style would be this. This might be young children or kids who, when mom and dad leaves or when they come back, they pretend not to care. Like, oh, you came back? Well, whatever, I'm just going to keep playing with my toys. It's this idea of, I'm in my own world. Maybe if individuals were younger and they didn't have mom and dad be there as reliable, they couldn't count on them, they were not in a position where when they were hurt or when they needed help, they could go to mom and dad for help. So because of that, these individuals develop an avoidant personality attachment or an avoidant attachment style. In that, very early on, this young person learns, if I need help, the number one person I can count on is myself. I can't count on other people because they're not going to be reliable. So I would much rather spend time with myself. Now, when this child gets older, 18, 25, 30, 35, here's where it gets tricky. They would rather avoid relationships. They would prefer to be by themselves. Not from an anxiety-focused place, but from an independence. If I get into a relationship, I'm going to lose my freedom. The best person to rely on is me. I don't need anybody. Other people will just slow me down. Have you heard of stuff like that? I don't need anyone. I'm fine by myself. I'm the only person I can count on anyways. And what Ainsworth and others believe or suggest this could come from is from being hurt, on relying on too many people at a very young age. So then when you get older, you go, I don't want a relationship. I'm on my own. I prefer to work on my own. I prefer to play on my own. I prefer to be on my own. Again, not from a place of anxiety, but from a place of independence and freedom and a little bit of selfishness in that I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it. And I don't have to check in with anybody. Okay, so that's avoidance. Next one, ambivalent attachment style. Now, this has also been called anxious attachment style. This is when, let's say, the baby or the young child in that experiment would start crying when mom or dad left the room, and then when they came back, they wouldn't stop crying. So this is an individual that would fear abandonment, that didn't know if mom or dad was going to come back, that is afraid to go out and to get help, or if something terrible happens to them, they're hesitant to get help. And when this child grows up and becomes an adult, if you have ambivalent attachment style, it's fueled by anxiety. So the tricky thing is the avoidant attachment style says, up yours, I want to be by myself. The ambivalent attachment style goes, when I feel hurt, I wish I could talk to someone. It would feel really good to talk to someone, but I don't know if I can trust you. I don't know if you're reliable. I don't know if I can count on you. So I'm not going to, or I'm going to be very, very, very hesitant to talk to you. So the way that we can distinguish this one from avoidant, again, avoidant was driven by, I want to be independent. Ambivalent attachment style is driven by, I feel anxious about opening up to you. I don't know if I can count on you. I don't know if I can depend on you. And individuals with ambivalent attachment style often get labeled as the clingy person in a relationship. Where are you? Who are you talking to? I want to see you. I want to listen to you. Why? There is such fear of abandonment. There is such fear of, are you talking to someone else? And these are people who need constant reassurance. Tell me I'm pretty enough. Tell me how much of a great guy I am. Tell me how wonderful I am. Because they have this agonizing fear that you're going to leave them. So I know what you're thinking. Daniel, what if someone has an avoidant attachment style and they start dating someone with an ambivalent attachment style? Fireworks, ladies and gentlemen, fireworks. Because over here, you've got someone who wants space. And that's where they feel comfortable. And being with someone doesn't feel very comfortable. Whereas over here, with the ambivalent, space is the last thing you want. Like, you're hesitant to open up to people because you're anxious and because you're afraid. But the moment you're in a relationship with someone, you're sticking to them like glue in an almost controlling way. Because you don't feel secure in that relationship. The last sort of attachment style is categorized as disorganized attachment style. And disorganized kind of means these are individuals who don't have a clear pattern. They kind of tiptoe in every single one. Here's what I mean. Because they're not strong in one, throughout different relationships, throughout different times of your life, you're going to see patterns of different things. So one day you can be very secure in yourself and secure in your partner, and the next day you feel very clingy. Or you feel very anxious that your partner is going to leave you someday, and because you see them flirting with someone at the party, and this makes your heart speed up, and this makes you want to be even more clingy and even more possessive and text them every day. And then other days, you're cooled off. Now, personally speaking, when we look at things like attachment styles or even disorders, we like to think of things as categorical versus on a scale. For example, if you look at personality, we would say, oh, you're in the 70th percentile of open-mindedness. So this is a scale, or this is a spectrum, excuse me. We wouldn't just say you're open-minded. That's why I'm not a fan when people say you're extroverted, you're introverted. It's like, well, what happens when the extrovert loves to read? What happens when the introvert who stays home and games all day loves hanging out with his 15 friends who also all game and they go and talk all day? So when we come to attachment styles, what do you think? Like, is it as simple as just saying, hey, you're 100% this, 100% that? Or maybe is it give and a take? Maybe you identify 40% as this, 30% as this, and whatever 30% is something else. So when I say this stuff, this is not a fact. This is not word of law. This is just a theory that's been proposed. Now, researchers have went out of their way to try to find some basis in this theory, to try to find ideas that back it up. And so far, in terms of social psychology, in terms of evidence for theories in relationships, it is doing quite well. So if you see somebody, or if it's yourself, and you're thinking about how you form relationships, why you act the way that you do, how can we go around the world and recognize, why do we want to pull it away? It's weird. Like, why do I not want to be in a relationship? There's a lot of people out there who prefer one-night stands to being in a relationship. Why? It's a fling. There's no commitment. If I have an avoidant attachment style, I don't want to be in a relationship. Not necessarily. Not initially anyways. I prefer to be on my own. But if I want to get that sexual pleasure, I have a one-night stand, get that out of my system, and see ya. So what we recognize is our attachment styles play a huge role in our beliefs about ourselves, about relationships, and the behaviors that we use. So-and-so has commitment issues. What does that mean? What does that mean exactly? What does commitment mean to you? Tell me about what you think about relationships. Can you count on your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your spouse? Is it yes? Is it sometimes? Is it no, I can't at all? Do you feel secure? Yes. Do you feel secure about your relationship? No. That's sounding like an avoidant attachment style. Do you feel secure in yourself? No. Do you feel secure in your relationship? No. That sounds like ambivalent attachment style. And if you're lucky enough to feel secure about yourself and about your relationship, now, good people, we're talking about secure attachment style. So, take this, do with this information as you may, and I hope that now you can look at the world a little bit differently when you look at the relationships in your lives. Take care, everybody. And as always, if you enjoyed, you can find me on most of the social media platforms. I appreciate your support so much. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.